Political parties for the U.S. Citizenship Test. Part 1: How America's Parties Began.
Welcome to Pathway to Citizenship, the talk show that turns every U.S. citizenship test question into a real-life conversation. I'm Andrea, your host and your guide through the sometimes confusing, sometimes hilarious world of American civics. And with me today is David, future U.S. citizen and my favorite political philosopher in training.
Philosopher? I don't know about that, Andrea. I just hope I can remember what the heck a political party is when the officer asks me.
That's a perfect place to start. The U.S. Citizenship Test loves this question. What are the two major political parties in the United States? The answer, of course, is Democratic and Republican. But the real story behind that answer, that's where it gets interesting.
I thought political parties were just groups that argue all the time on TV.
You're not wrong, but there's more to it. Think of political parties as teams in the big game of democracy. Every team has players, strategies, and goals. In America, the two biggest teams have been the Democrats and the Republicans for over 150 years.
So it's like cheering for Team Donkey or Team Elephant?
Exactly. The donkey is the symbol for the Democratic Party, chosen because of Andrew Jackson in the 1820s. His opponents called him a jackass, and he thought, you know what, I like that. So he turned it into a symbol of determination. Later, the elephant became the Republican symbol thanks to a political cartoon in the 1870s.
Only in America could an insult and an elephant end up representing two of the most powerful parties in the world.
That's the American way, turning chaos into identity. But the deeper point is that parties organize people's ideas about government. They help voters understand where leaders stand on issues. Imagine trying to run a country of 330 million people without any structure. It would be like hosting a potluck where everyone brings soup and no one brings spoons.
Sounds messy. So, are Democrats and Republicans the only ones?
Not at all. There are smaller parties, the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, the Constitution Party, but they rarely win major national elections. The U.S. uses a winner-take-all system, which means only the top vote-getter wins. That's why it's hard for smaller parties to compete.
I've heard of third-party candidates. Do they matter if they don't win?
They absolutely do. They bring new ideas into the conversation. For example, in the early 1900s, the Progressive Party pushed for reforms like women's suffrage and labor rights. Later, those ideas became mainstream. So even if they don't win, they often change the rules of the game.
That's cool. So political parties are like storytellers for people's beliefs?
Perfectly said, David. They tell the story of what kind of country people want. And when you understand those stories, you're not just memorizing a test answer. You're learning to read America's heartbeat.
Wow. Okay. I might remember that now. Democratic and Republican, but also two different stories about America.
Exactly. And your citizenship interview isn't just about facts. It's about understanding what those facts mean. When you can explain that, you sound not just prepared, but American.
Andrea, I still can't believe parties have been around that long. When did this all start? Did George Washington have a party?
Funny you should ask. He didn't. In fact, Washington warned against political parties in his farewell address in 1796. He thought they would divide the nation. He wanted Americans to see themselves as one united people, not competing teams.
That didn't age well.
Not exactly. Because even while he was president, two factions were already forming. On one side, you had Alexander Hamilton and his followers, who believed in a strong central government and a modern economy. On the other side, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison wanted more power for the states and a simpler, agrarian America.
So, Hamilton versus Jefferson, the first political rivalry.
Exactly. They were like the original political rock stars, brilliant, passionate, and totally opposed. Hamilton's group became the Federalists. Jefferson's group evolved into the Democratic Republicans.
Wait, that sounds like both of today's parties mashed together.
You're right. It's confusing. The names changed over time. The Federalists eventually faded away, and the Democratic Republicans split into two. Andrew Jackson's supporters formed the Democratic Party in the 1820s. Then, in the 1850s, the Republican Party was born, founded by people who opposed the expansion of slavery.
So the Republicans started as the anti-slavery party?
Yes, under Abraham Lincoln's leadership. Their rise was dramatic. Imagine the political world suddenly turning upside down. New party, new president, and soon after, the Civil War. That's how much power ideas have when they're organized.
So when I study for the test, and it says, what are the two major political parties? It's not just trivia. It's the story of how the country keeps evolving.
Exactly. Every party shift reflects what America is wrestling with at that time. During the Great Depression, for example, Franklin D. Roosevelt's Democratic Party expanded government programs to help struggling Americans. Later, Republicans under Ronald Reagan pushed back, arguing for smaller government and lower taxes.
That sounds like a tug of war that never ends.
That's democracy, a peaceful tug of war. Parties debate ideas, voters choose sides, and the country moves forward through compromise. Think of it as an orchestra with two main instruments playing opposite melodies that somehow create harmony.
Unless they play too loud.
True, and that's when voters have to remind them who the conductor is, the people.
You know, I like that image. The citizens as the conductor of democracy.
That's right. Political parties might make the noise, but citizens set the rhythm. That's why studying for this test isn't just about passing. It's about learning how to hold the baton.
I like that. So when I sit in the interview and they ask me, what are the two major political parties? I'll answer confidently, but in my head, I'll be thinking, I'm the conductor.
Exactly. That's the spirit. See, the U.S. Citizenship Test doesn't just test knowledge. It tests understanding. And understanding the story of political parties is understanding how Americans have argued, dreamed, and rebuilt their nation for over 2 centuries.
It's kind of inspiring. I used to think politics was just noise. Now I see it as a conversation that keeps the country alive.
That's the best definition I've ever heard, David. Politics as the conversation of America.